Right, okay, welcome to the Sales and Marketing for Decorators podcast. My name's John Mears, thank you for joining me. And today I am joined by the one and only JG Decorator, Jonathan Graham. How are you, my friend?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for coming on. You've had quite a day. I've seen some of your Instagram stories, some Bill and Ted stuff, some syrup.
Bill and Ted, Wayne's
World. Sorry,
I hate to start the podcast off on a bad foot, but I think you'll find that was Wayne's World and not Bill and Ted.
Oh dear, no, that was all good fun. So, but apart from that, have you been busy today?
Yeah, one or two bits and pieces. I've taken the day off today. I finished a project yesterday. I start another project tomorrow, but today's just given me a bit of a breather space to just liaise with the client for the new project, get bits and pieces that I need to get ordered or delivered, clean all my brushes out, my brushes and rollers cleared out, get my van sorted out. So it's nice every so often just to have a bit of almost like a tradesperson's Sabbath day of just doing the stuff that you need to do. I like to start a new job with a nice clean van as well. So washing the van, get everything sorted. So yeah, busy.
That's absolutely perfect that you've said that, in all honesty, because today's question is, how do you manage your time as a decorator and business owner? So the fact that you've just had a day of catching up with some of those tasks that are part of being a decorator, but often get pushed back, I guess, cleaning the brushes and doing the admin-y bits and catching up with quotations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you manage it? I mean, what does a typical day or a typical week look like for you?
Well, I've got a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is I'm really bad at it. The long answer is that I have a fantastic partner in the business who is my wife, who really helps me where I'm neglectful on the kind of business and admin side of it. Especially when you're running a business such as being a tradesperson, you are 100% dedicated and committed to, with your I'm really fortunate to have my wife Claire help me out but outside of that, I've learned over a number of years that there's one or two bits and pieces that I can do that helps me try and maintain a streamlined kind of system as best as I can. And it's from the small thing to the larger thing. So I'm happy to go into more detail about those bits and pieces.
Well, definitely, yeah. I mean, it is very difficult. I can only imagine how difficult it is being a tradesperson where all day long you're working hard on your craft, and then as a minimum in the evenings you've got to go out, you've got to do quotes and things like that. I mean, obviously you've got the support there from Claire, and I think a lot of tradespeople should look for some sort of support like that, and basic admin tasks and things like that. But do you prefer to do some admin in the morning before you get going, or do you leave it for when you get home? Do you try and do little bits through the day? How are you managing those day-to-day admin-y tasks that you have to do, whether it's talking to customers, ringing them back, sorting things out, stuff like that?
One of the things I found really helpful for me is I'll give you a good example. Round about kind of 10, half 10, I will make myself a coffee, and I tend to normally have I call them like a standing break. So I'll have a cup of coffee while I'm just having 5 minutes. But I found what's really helpful for me is within that 5 minutes, that I can do bits of admin work that I might need to do. So it could be as little as just ringing a client or ringing a supplier. It could be just writing something in my diary or making a note like that. Because I find if I'm not doing something like that, I'm wasting my time. I'm always conscious of the fact that, especially, having 5 minutes for a break where I'm not doing anything, by the end of the week, that's 25 minutes collectively where I've not been doing anything. I've not been utilising my time. And then, I've worked along with other tradespeople where they'll have a break in the, halfway through the morning, they'll have their lunch, they'll have a break at mid-afternoon, and then they finish for 4:30. And I think, like, collectively, all of that time, they're just not doing anything. You know what I mean? And for me, that's my admin time. And with, like, modern technology like iPads and iPhones and bits and pieces like that, you're able to do a little bit of admin work quite easily within that time period where you're just sipping a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I think exactly as you say, smartphones, iPads, things like that. But I think there's a certain amount of dedication, and there needs to be a little bit of planning. I think it's all too easy when you take a 5-minute or 10-minute break here and there just to have a quick flick through social media, and before you know it, you're 15 minutes and you're like, oh, I better get back to the job. Do you keep like a diary or a to-do list?
In regards to the jobs that I've got to do, kind of for admin work or during that time, is that what you mean?
Yeah. So just a list of, like, here's 5 or 6 small admin jobs that I need to get ticked off today. Do you have like a list of those on hand?
Yeah, so I have like I've got a little thing as well, because I like an old paper works diary, and even the type of diary that I've got is pretty handy because, and this is how geeky and anally retentive I am known to be. But even the way in which it's set out, I've got kind of areas where I've got all the information for the client where I'm working. I've got a section for materials, what colours I'm using, the placement, what finishes, and then another bit of like additional details that I need to write down, like I need to order this, or I need to make sure that this gets delivered in bits and pieces. So even my works diary, I specifically got one of these because it's set out in a way where I've got a record of each project as a goal.
Yeah, I think it's important. I'm exactly the same. I have a paper diary which I write out my jobs for each day and systematically work through them and prioritize them accordingly. But it's a very neat system that you've got there. Is that something that's developed over time? Did you develop that yourself? Did you get inspiration for it, or is that something that Claire has sort of said, right, I need you to start taking notes in this particular way?
Yeah, to be fair, I think it's a combination of all of those things. I've been working now for nearly 20 years, and I think it's a culmination of inspiration from other people primarily. I was saying to my wife earlier on that the thing about being an expert or in your chosen field is you know how to hide all of your mistakes really, really well.
Yeah.
And all of the, this is 20 years, my diary, the way that I do stuff now is 20 years worth of doing it and not quite doing it right, making the mistakes and thinking, well, that didn't quite work well. How can I improve it? How can I change it up? And in some cases, that can be a bit of a negative thing. And it does take someone else to say, stop worrying about it and just get on with the job. And that's why I'm really fortunate to have my wife Claire as an equal partner in the business, that I might have some madcap ideas, but then she goes, I don't think it'd work. And it just gives me pause and think, right, it's not going to work. I trust her. She has more. She's throughout her working career. Before we started a family and children, she's worked in an office, so she has more of an office. And it was something that was never really taught to me during my apprenticeship, was the business side of doing the trade. It was purely, this is how you paint a door, this is how you put wallpaper on, out into the big world, and
yeah,
you've got to learn everything as you go along.
Yeah, I think that's I hear this from a lot of people. You get all your practical skills from your college courses or your apprenticeship, however you come into the industry, but no one ever tells you the business side of it. And I think all too many decorators end up, they're constantly chasing their tail. They're always perhaps don't keep a diary like you, because and everyone's on a learning on a journey, but it's even simple things like making sure you're ordering the materials for the next day. You're setting aside some time in the morning to do that, rather than going, oh my god, it's 5 to 5 and I haven't ordered tomorrow's materials, what's going on? And then your deliveries get messed up. I think that organization, I guess that is a culmination of years and years of getting it wrong and learning from it.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me is a combination of geography as well. I live very rurally. I live north of York in Rydale, and apart from maybe one or two independent merchants, all of the big brand places like your Crown, your Johnsons, your Dulux, they're all a 25-mile drive for me.
Yeah.
It's a good hour and a half round trip if I run out of materials. So I'm pretty fortunate as well to have like storage as well, where I can have my sundries. So I'll go and buy a box of cork, and instead of getting one or two tubes here and there, I've got a box there. And once I feel as if it's starting to get depleted, I'll make sure that I order, as much as I can, I'll order in bulk, so that I'm not having to make unnecessary trips, because it's such a pain traveling all that way for a bit of sandpaper or a bit of cork or a tin of paint. It's a waste of time. It's an hour of my day, an hour and a half, 2 hours if I get stuck in traffic, where I'm not doing anything. I'm not earning any money. I'm not doing any admin. I'm just simply driving to go and get a tin of paint.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it takes time to get that organisation and to be able to plan well enough to get all of these things nailed down. It's interesting that I speak to a lot of decorators, and some of them will have like a dedicated admin day. So every few weeks or once a month or something like that, they'll take an entire day off and try and do all their admin, or they'll do all their quotes on a Monday or something like that. So do you find that just being efficient, efficient with your time and just doing it little and often, you manage to get it done without having to, take full days off to do it?
Well, one of the things that I found really helpful recently is, because of COVID, and because of the restrictions of people going into other people's houses, is that one of the things that I've started offering my clients is a virtual quotation and consultation. Yep. Most people have got kind of the means to do video calling now. So whereas before it might have taken me a good 2 hours to do just one quotation, I'm doing it in 20 minutes now. And I'm getting all the information that I need. I'm able to get clients to take measurements of the room. Picture quality of phones are really good these days, so that you can get a really good idea of the dimensions of the room. And as a decorator, you're going to know which areas need the most work. With exterior work, it's a little bit different, because you don't have the health and hygiene considerations, because you're outside. But things like that I've found really helpful. And again, you're doing the same job in less time. You're a bit more efficient. And then I think when it comes to kind of, the general admin, little bits, often enough, make a hell of a difference. But that's where I'm saying that, but that's where I fall down. Because I'm so busy, is that I can have all of these streamlined ideas. I can have all my tools in sustainer boxes so that they're easy to take in my van and put them on site or put them in the work. I am terrible for doing my kind of tax stuff and writing numbers down. I am really bad at that, even after 20 years. I always say every year, I'm going to be better and I'm going to be better. And, I'm not. But that's where the praise goes to my wife, Claire, because she's fantastic in helping me with that. We were even doing something this afternoon. So even I'm not critical and say I do everything perfectly, because I simply do not when it comes to that side of running a business.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to hit everyone's human at the end of the day, and we all have these wonderful intentions of doing everything perfect, and it can all fall down. But I think it's clear to see that if you just keep looking out for those little opportunities where it's where can I be a bit more efficient, and as you say, it can be things like having everything in sustainers so you can unload and load the van. Well, if that saves you 5 or 10 minutes on each trip, that's could end up easily be an hour or so a week, and that hour or so can be diverted into something else. So, and there'll be hundreds of little things like that, and with things like QuickBooks and Xero and all these different accounting apps that are available now, where you just take a photo and it stores your receipts, and there's the technology, I think, is really helping all business, but particularly people in trades like painting and decorating, where you are out every day doing stuff, and you need to have this at your fingertips. So it's I think people need to really embrace the new technologies that are available, because it will help with massive areas of your business.
It's just small things. It's how can I offer a better service to my clients at the end of the day. I'll give you a really good example, and this example has real world practical application as well. So it's not just pie in the sky waffle. I mentioned about having particular tools and materials in sustainer boxes or any type of carry boxes. It is that I'm able to get out of my van onto site. I try and make it a personal thing of mine, is to get everything on the job within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If I didn't do that, then it could be 20-25 minutes of just doing a simple thing of moving tools. I don't mean this in a kind of bad way, but I'm not a smoker, so I'm not taking smoke breaks I don't know how many times smokers take smoke breaks during the day, but it's little things like that. If you've got a set amount of time that you're working, and it's always being eaten into it by breaks or chatting or whatever it might be. I'm not saying that any of those things are wrong, because I've done it as well. But if we're talking about being efficient running a business, you've got to keep all of these little things in mind, even to the point of do I get enough sleep on a night? How much did I drink the night before? So on and so forth. It all plays a part.
No, you're absolutely right. You have to look at it from a more global perspective.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's something that I found within the last couple of years. I used to quite enjoy a few drinks on a Sunday night, but then I always found I wasn't quite as effective on a Monday, and then
Yeah.
it sort of puts you behind on Tuesday, and it's Wednesday or Thursday before you're caught up, and then it's the weekend again, and you're like, sometimes you have to make a few little tweaks and start the week right and get ahead on everything.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm speaking about myself here. It is that the the way that I try and think about being efficient, it plays into as well my view of myself, the value that I have in my own worth and my own mental health and well-being. Is that, like I mentioned right at the beginning, it is that I like to clean my van before I start a new job.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have a nice clean t-shirt. I like clean overalls on when I start a new job, because in my mind, I'm starting something afresh. But I can only I can only do that. I can only get my mindset in the right place if I've done all of that the night before or the weekend before, cleaning everything, getting everything sorted, being efficient when I'm not at work, so that when I am working, I'm hitting the ground running. It doesn't work all the time, you know, but it just plays into what I find for me is good for my mental health and well-being, doing this job that I'm really passionate about.
No, absolutely. So let's go back to, so the original question is how do you manage your time as a decorator and a business owner? And I think for me, I'm seeing that there's two parts to this. There's your overall mindset, and having that mindset of wanting to be efficient, and that is, like you're saying about with your mental health and making sure that you've got clean t-shirts and clean van and everything like that. However, how you deal with that on a global level, getting your mindset right, and then it's all about little and often. I think. Would you agree? Doing little bits here and just finding those little efficiencies, and don't let it all pile up and try and do it in one day every 2 weeks or something like that. Just try and find 5-10 minutes here and there where you can just do these tasks and just knock them off as you go along.
Definitely. I mean, that is the ideal situation, little and often, having the time. But, you know, I'll be honest, that's the thing that I fall down on. It'll be all in one go. It'll be an all day thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a combination of my own mindset. I come back from work and I can't be asked. You know,
yeah.
I've got a full day's work. Why the hell do I want to sit in front of a computer and type in kind of numbers or do quotations or anything like that? But I recognise that, and I say it in a glib way, but I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. But that idea of being efficient, little and often, that's the best way to run a business.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think you've got to find out what works for you perfectly, what works for you best. I find that if I can complete a few key tasks first thing in the morning, that sets me up for the day, and I'll be more efficient throughout the whole day. If I get to maybe lunchtime or so and I haven't really I've been putting off some jobs, then 9 times out of 10 I'm going to put those jobs off till tomorrow. I'll keep telling myself, oh, I'll do them, but it never ends up that way. So I know personally, if I've got to force myself to do it first thing in the morning, and it will set me up for the rest of the day, because if I try and tell myself, oh, I'll do it this evening, it's not happening.
Can I give you a good example? Can I give you a good example of that for me?
Please do.
With exterior work, there's always one little thing, that bastard of a climb that you really don't want to do.
Yeah.
You'll put it off and you'll put it off and you'll put it off until it gets to the point where it's the afternoon that you're supposed to be finishing the job and you've not prepped it or anything. And then you quickly scramble up the ladders, you quickly flick over it with a bit of sandpaper, water-based undercoat, and then gloss it. And then you're like, I feel better now. I've done it. I've been really efficient in doing it right at the last minute. So yeah, we've all been guilty of doing, procrastinating on our jobs, our work, and our business.
Definitely. I read a book. It's called Eat That Frog, and I think I mention it in my book. And it talks about finding your frog, and the frog is basically that one task that you really don't want to do, but usually that task is the one that's probably most effective for your business. So it's making that phone call that you don't want to make, that makes you uncomfortable. It's climbing up and doing that horrible bit on the exterior. Do that first thing in the morning, force yourself to do it, get that done, and then the rest of the day is downhill from there. It's very much easier said than done, but
yeah,
if you can get into the habit of taking on that task you don't want to do that first, and I think you'll be more efficient all day long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, that's been a great insight, Jonathan. Thank you so much for taking us through that, and it's been interesting to see how you manage the day and how you find these efficiencies and run a business and work full time on the brush, because it is a difficult balance, isn't it, having a job like this. So thank you very much for that. If the guys want to find some more about you, you're quite prolific on Instagram, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Where can we find you on there?
Yes, so Instagram and Twitter, JG Decorator. You can find me. I post one or two things every so often, so you can probably find me there.
I think you're always good value. Always makes me laugh. Anyway, your stories. So yeah, if you want to find more about me, you can go to my website, jmears.co.uk/ebook, and you can register for my mailing list, and I'll send you a free copy of my latest ebook. JG, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Cheers.